Hi, everyone. Welcome to the program. Here we are with the sports writers, Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, all of the Salem News, and Nick Kukuru from the Gloucester Times. And gentlemen, here we are talking on a Monday, late Monday, and to post on Tuesday morning. We're going to just jump right into it. We've got hockey and basketball and a lot of updates to provide for the folks. So, Nick Giannino, why don't we just begin with you? I know you were at a great basketball game on Friday night, Salem Marblehead. Salem, I would call that an upset, beating Marblehead by 1 point.
Yeah, well, me and you were at the first matchup, Bill, at the beginning of the season. I think it was the season opener for both teams, Marblehead and Salem, and Marblehead came out on the winning side of that one. I think it was a 5 or 6 point win for them, and that was a game that Salem star sophomore Brayson Green had to rush to the hospital to get stitches on his lip because he went up for a dunk attempt and hit the deck pretty hard, bit through his lip. So he was out for the fourth quarter, maybe even longer. I can't remember. This was weeks ago, but he missed the end of that game. And they had the rematch on Friday night in Salem. And yeah, what a game. I mean, Marblehead took an early lead. They were up 4 at halftime. Salem came out in the third with a 12-0 run to kind of take control of the game. And they really stayed in control throughout that second half until the final minutes when Marblehead made a push and they ended up taking the lead. And then, Salem had to hit some free throws. Brayson Green, actually, who had a terrific game. He's really playing excellent this season for Salem. Missed a couple free throws to give Marblehead life, and then ended up going back to the line later in the game and hit his free throws to put him back up. And then Marblehead had a shot at the buzzer, but they had to go the length of the court in about 4 seconds. They called the timeout, but it's not the NBA. They don't get to advance the ball, so they had to go baseline to baseline in about 4 seconds. And Tyrone Countryman, who's pretty fast, split the defense, went right up the court, and had one of those Dwayne Wade runners from 3 at the buzzer, and it just hit the back rim. It was actually a decent look, but Salem survived for the 1 point win. And yeah, I mean, that was a big win for them. Split the season series with Marblehead. And I don't know what's going on with Nick Kukuru's screen over there. You guys seeing that too? A little distracted, but anyway,
it's the old vertical. It's the old vertical hold. When I was a kid, your TV would do that thing. I don't know if you guys are too young to remember that.
No, I remember that.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
So
but Nick, you're
I mean,
just nodding. You're just nodding at the old guy. I get it. That's fine.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, all right.
Anyway, just a great game. Another great game in the Northeastern Conference. We've seen a ton of tight games. I mean, we've talked about it here on the podcast before, but Beverly, Salem, Marblehead, and Peabody, those 4 teams have gone neck and neck with each other in a bunch of matchups this season. It looks like Beverly's probably going to run away with the conference title. They only got the 1 loss, but those other 3 teams are going to be threats in the playoffs. And it's just been really fun to watch those guys go toe-to-toe. That Salem game I mentioned, Brayson Green had a great game. Corey Grimes, the Witches quarterback during the football season, he's really stepped up. He's getting some key layups down low. He's a really great finisher. He rebounds well. He's been playing good defense, so he's been earning a lot more minutes. Jack Doyle, runs the point really well. He hit some big threes in that one. So they're balanced. And then Marblehead, I just every time I see them, I'm impressed with their size and their athleticism. They've had some tough, close losses. I think they got 4 or 5 losses on the season now, but none of them are blowouts. They're in every game, and they've gone toe-to-toe with Salem, with Beverly, with Peabody. So that's another team in Division II that's going to surprise some people, I think, come playoff time. And then we can go over to the matchup over at Henry Cabot Lodge on Friday. That I was obviously at the Salem game, but Willie over here was at the Henry Cabot Lodge for Beverly Peabody, and Ryder Frost, kind of a performance for the ages. We've seen him be capable of putting together that type of performance, but to do it against a really good Peabody team, and they needed every bucket he had, I would say, right, Willie? 40 points, 20 rebounds. I think he had 6 assists as well. Yep. So that was incredible. I don't know if, Willie, you want to dive in a little bit more of that, because Peabody was right in it. I guess Shea Lynch had a big game in that one, hit a bunch of threes, and Forte went over 20. What was there? Four players go over 20 points in that one, Willie?
Yeah, four 20-point scorers on the night. You don't see that every night in the NEC. The league is just like you said at the top, very very good, and Frost is at the tip top of that mountain. I mean, he came into the game averaging 20, 13, and 6, and threw up 40, 20, and 6 assists for good measure. And I just think it's kind of Coach Karakutis had a comment that I thought really struck home. Like, how many times do you see a kid score 40 in a high school game and have 6 assists? Right? Usually, you score 40 in a high school game, it's because you have to take volume of shots. Maybe you're not getting a lot of help from your teammates, or maybe you're just bigger than everyone else and backing them down and getting the buckets in the paint, right? But Frost was scoring from inside, outside, and when they pressed him and didn't let him get near the hoop, he was able to find his teammates on outlets and cutters for easy baskets and assists. So I mean, this guy did it all, and I just think, maybe Bill or Nick Kukru will have some thoughts, and Nick Giannino not haven't been around quite as long, but I mean, this kid has to be the best future prospect that the Northeastern Conference has seen since who? I don't know. Maybe Ryan Woom from Glen English. I mean, and if you take out the schools that have left the NEC, you got to go back to what? I mean, 94, 95. And I say that because Ryder Frost is 6'6". So this kid is going to play major college basketball because of how tall he is and how athletic he is and how he can play inside and outside. I mean, some of the boys that played for Danvers High that were really good basketball players. Nick Bates comes to mind. Nick Murray had a great collegiate career. Eric Martin had a great collegiate career, but these were guards. These guys were 6'1", 6'2". This kid is 6'6" with guard skills. I feel pretty comfortable. Outside the Northeastern Conference, going to the Salem News area at large, this is the best college and potentially beyond prospect that we've had in this area since Pat Connaughton. I mean, I really believe that. Haven't seen him play and followed his career, and a lot of it's just the combination of height and athleticism you do not see very often. I don't know if I'm missing anybody that you guys can think of, because obviously you guys follow the hoop a little bit better than me, but I just think the length, the height, the athleticism. I mean, it is really something else, the skill set that this guy has, and obviously the ability to do it when the lights are brightest. Because like you said, Peabody was pushing them. Shea Lynch made 5 threes, scored 24 points. I think that's a career high for him. You say Forte had an off night because he only scored 20, right? I mean, the kid's averaging 20, he scored 20. He did what he always does, but he just happened to not score 40, and that ends up looking like an off night, which is crazy because he played really well too.
Nick, how long was Matt Cross around for?
I
He
wasn't.
stayed in Beverly for a year, I think, right?
That's
Did
it.
he even?
Okay.
I thought it was St. Mary's Lynn. Did he even play for Beverly High?
Yeah, he
I
might
thought
not even played for Beverly.
Yeah, I don't think he ever played in the Salem News
And
team.
by the way, he's having a great year for UMass Amherst. It might be he might be wrapping up his career now. I think he's a senior, played 5 years of college ball, but he's having a great year. But yeah, Ryder is very unique, and you're seeing this a lot more with talent, coming up the woodwork in basketball now, where these taller players can play like guards. You mentioned his size, 6'6", he's strong, but he can shoot the 3 ball as good as anyone. He plays inside and out. He's a good defender, and that's what you're seeing. More guys with height are not your typical post players anymore. They can stretch the floor and shoot these threes, and that's the direction the game's going in. And Ryder's coming up at the right time, and I think even playing in Beverly, he's going to get the exposure necessary to, get in to a Division I college. I don't know what level that might be. He still has another year to play, but watching him do what he's done this season and last season has been really, really fun, really entertaining. He's a special player.
Are we talking like a Merrimack or a Lowell or like a Hartford?
That's the thing. I think it depends on his senior year, right? Because he's only going to get better. He's still got another year under his belt. What's he averaging? 22 and 14 this year with, like Willie said, maybe 5 assists a game.
6.2.
6.2 assists.
That's what it says on last week's leaders.
There you go. Yeah, that's accurate.
I guess
updates.
6 Friday won't change that number much.
No. Yeah. I think he's only going to get better. He's getting more comfortable. He's unselfish. He's got all the intangibles that you look for in a college prospect. I think at this stage of his career, yes, the Merrimacks, the ULOLs, the lower level Division Ones, and not to knock my Riverhawks, they're having a great
No,
season.
right, exactly.
To the tournament this year, but he can boost his his stock here a little bit, and he plays AAU ball too, so he's going to get plenty of exposure, and he's not going unnoticed. A 6'6" kid like that can do all the things he does. There's no ceiling really.
I just have. Go ahead,
Willie's
Phil.
got
No,
me
I'm
thinking
sorry.
though. Was there somebody at Lynn English that like was Antonio Anderson? Geez, the years start to blend together. Was he after Pat?
He was
Oh,
He was
with Pat.
before Pat.
He played at Tech. He played at Tech, but he was probably before.
He was before Pat,
Connaughton.
and he played what, Memphis, and
Yeah,
that's a high
Memphis.
level Division
Yep,
One.
Memphis. Yep.
I
He
think
might be the
Ryan
last
Wool was the
guy.
one that played against Pat that went to Middle Tennessee or Memphis or something like that. That played there when Antonio was coaching, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
He was a sharpshooter, a guard.
Or who's the kid from Central Catholic there? I know we're jumping over to prep schools now, but DeRozers. He went.
Yeah,
to
yeah, he's a big guy too. I mean,
Carson
he's sort of a
DeRozers.
Carson DeRozers.
traditional big guy there. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, this kid is just, I can think of some big guys that we've had over the years that kind of used their height in high school and kind of struggled in college, because you get to college and you're no longer, 6 inches taller than everybody else. And that is just not this kid's game at all.
Right.
And, obviously he's coached hard by Coach K, and, he doesn't fall in love with the three. I mean, if the three's not falling, he's not afraid to go inside. Just the fact that he does both and does what's best for the team. I mean, not only, that's the thing. Like, to me, the coaching he gets from Coach K, like he's developing his basketball IQ. Like, he's definitely not wasted there in Beverly. It's a smart coach, a smart team. I love the way they play. I mean, I haven't mentioned Dylan Crowley, who didn't score much in this game. He's averaging 19 a game, but he did literally everything else, jumping on the floor, assists, rebounds, and just dogged defense, tremendous defense from Crowley. I mean, he's a kid that, again, like, I think it just goes to show you that team atmosphere that Beverly has. Like, the kids aren't afraid to take a back seat for a game if that's what it takes to win, and like, Crowley's just another great example of that. Like, he didn't show up much in the box score, didn't get a lot of love in my story, but, looking back at the game, like, there were a half dozen plays where, you saw his hair flopping, and it was, he made an impact on that possession, right?
Yeah, he's got some sneaky size too. I mean, he's not small. He's
He's long.
6
Yeah,
feet,
no, he's
6'1".
long.
Long.
I mean,
But
I've had a chance to see Beverly probably 5 or 6 times since Matt Karakutis has been there. I mean, I usually see him once a year, twice a year. But this was as polished and as together, I think, as I've seen them. And I was just really, really impressed. And we see that they've been rocketing up the power rankings. I mean, they were all the way up to number 11 when they came out on Friday. And with another win over a ranked Peabody team that was, I think, 20 or 21, they're not going to move down. So this is a Beverly team that, maybe started out. I remember on the podcast in December, they lost opening day. They had some transfers, some injuries. We says, what's it going to be? Is this team taking a step down? The NEC streak is over, and they put their noses down, and they've worked and they've improved as the season goes, which is what you want, right? I mean, nobody wants to peak in December. You want to start somewhere and get better every day. And that's exactly what they've been doing. I mean, and we've seen it as they've climbed up the power rankings. I mean, the first ones, they were 20 something, 27 or whatever. And, now they're knocking on the door of the top 10.
And their strength of schedule. I mean, they got one of the hardest schedules in the area. All these top tier teams, they've played probably 3 of the top teams in the state, and gone toe to toe. So,
yeah, let me mop up on just a couple of hoop things. First, Ryder Frost also, he's not always going to be scoring 40 points as he did Friday night, but he's also a great passer. So let me just throw that into the mix here. Dylan Crowley, the other night, I saw him, he got 33 points. I mean, he since that game, though, he hasn't been scoring the 33 points, but that shows the team thing that you guys were just talking about, Beverly. Different players can rise at different occasions. Noe Diaz, that's the other player, Nick, right? He's had some big games.
Noe Diaz, yeah.
The other thing I just want to note here before we jump to Nick Kukuru is Rook Landman. Landman had the
Mhm.
injury earlier this year. He came back in that game Friday against Peabody. He dislocated his elbow, so that's not a great injury. I'm not sure what his status would be, but that was a real tough blow. And
Yeah.
Landman starred in the game on Tuesday night against Saugus back down on the road. So a little shout. And one other note here on Brayson Green of Salem that you were talking about, Nick, is
Yeah.
I think it was Adam Philpott, the Gloucester coach, was describing him this year to me as he's got length, he can shoot, he can play inside, outside, and he can move the ball up the court with that size.
Yeah.
And so he's a remarkable player in many regards. In some ways, somewhat similar to Ryder Frost.
Yeah. And
Obviously,
he's
not
only a
not a
sophomore.
carbon copy, but similar in a way, in some ways. Yeah.
Only a sophomore, a little bit shorter, but
Yep.
yeah, he's tremendously skilled, and he's playing huge minutes for Salem. He rarely comes off the court, and he's
Yeah.
doing everything for that team. So, talking to Tommy after the game, he missed those 2 free throws, but Tommy said, "Look, I'm playing him the whole game. We're asking him to do everything. Like, he was exhausted. So to miss those 2 free throws, it happens." And he got it back. He had a big block at the end of the game to help seal it too. So
All those things. Yeah. Nick Kukuru, let's just jump to you, and we've obviously got to get to hockey as well here. What can you share with us from the Cape Ann area?
Well, sure. I mean, I can start with boys hoop, and then we can shift to hockey after because those are the two most notable teams in my area so far. But yeah, I mean, sticking with the boys hoop, Manchester Essex is on a tear right now. They're up to 12-1, undefeated in the Cape Ann League. They just beat Georgetown Friday by 20 in their own building. To pretty much, take control of that Cal Baker division. I know Georgetown was only a game behind them. And Manchester's beat every team in the Kinney division too. They got North Reading tomorrow night, which is probably their last huge Cape Ann League test this season. So if they win that, they'll probably run the table in the Cal. So they're looking real good. I mean, Cade First is averaging over 25 a game. He can go off. He had a 37-point night against Amesbury where he didn't even play in the fourth quarter. So he can put him up in a hurry. And if they're keen in on him, they got Brendan Twombly on the inside. He's kind of 6'3" athlete, can run the floor. He threw down a dunk actually in Georgetown the other night.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, they're pretty stacked. They look pretty poised. Their only losses to Burke, which is a potential deep tournament opponent in Division 4. So, and they only lost by 6. So they look primed for a pretty nice run in the tournament. And they seem to be the best team in the Cal, top and bottom. I mean, sorry, large and small, I should say.
did they play Newburyport?
Yeah, they played Newburyport in the opener, I
Okay.
believe. They beat them.
They beat him.
I don't remember what the score was, but they beat them. They definitely beat them. Yeah, they have North Reading coming up next, and 2 wins over Georgetown. So, the Cal Baker's a little down this year outside of Georgetown and Manchester, so they should be able to handle the rest of the way. And yeah, I mean, Cape Ann wise, Gloucester boys hockey, they continue to roll. They've kind of figured things out after a bad start. They started off 2-4, really had a couple losses where they didn't look all that good, kind of not really handling the physical play well, trying to, find themselves. And they've definitely found an identity. They figured out how to use their speed. They don't have, a 40-goal scorer and a 35-goal scorer like they did last season, but they can generate some offense. They roll 3 lines now this season. And, Colby Jewell especially has kind of really come into his own and taken over that, kind of number 1 go-to guy spot on their team. He's got 9 goals, 9 assists. He leads the team in scoring. He's really caught fire in recent weeks. They're on a 5-0-1 stretch right now, and they got a real big stretch coming up. North Andover on Wednesday, Masco coming into Talbot Rink on Saturday, and then Danvers the following Wednesday. So that's a tough 3-game stretch that'll put that unbeaten streak to the test.
All right, so there's hockey. Phil Stacey can pick up on that, and Matt Williams on the other side as well. Just one other basketball note. I'm sorry, I was helter-skelter here, but Salem plays at Peabody Tuesday night tonight when this is released. So that's a huge game to look at, I think, this week in North Shore basketball. Phil?
Yep, and I'll have coverage from that one.
There you go.
I'd concur with Kooks in saying that I think Gloucester is. I wouldn't quite say they've done a 180, but they've come miles from when I last saw them in right after Christmas. I got a chance to see them about a week ago, and I was telling Coach Derek Geary, "Wow, you guys have really flipped the script here. Really done a nice job there." Thought they're playing very well defensively. kind of committed to team defense, and as Cook said, kind of using that team speed and getting contributions from all three lines. Not really one line they're depending on to take that scoring load, and it makes it difficult for other teams, I think, to try to shut down one particular line. So that will benefit them in the long run. They're as hot as anybody right now. Say the same thing about Winthrop. They're at the top of the league in the Northeastern Conference. I just got a chance to watch them for the first time the other day. Really impressed with them. Again, nothing super fancy at all. A couple guys jump off the page at you. I would say the combination, the left wing and the center on the first line, both really, really good players. And I thought they stood out in that game for the way that they played. The game that I saw them against Beverly, when they took on the Panthers, they just brought it with their skating. They could really move well without the puck, I thought, but when they did have it, they really, really attacked the net and looked really good in doing it. Didn't seem like it was out of place or anything like that. Their motions were very smooth. I'm talking about Petey Silverman is the center and Jack Hayes is the winger on his line. I think Holgerson is on the other side of that line. So I thought they looked really good. Per usual, Winthrop is a team that's committed to its defense, and that was no different when I saw them. They held Beverly to 9 shots. So you're going to win an awful lot of games when you hold the shot down to that point. But they're the team to beat. Marblehead, Masco, and even Gloucester now chasing them. And it's not a fait accompli that Winthrop is going to win, but they're certainly in the driver's seat and can control their own destiny from this point. What else?
Well, I saw you saw the prep this weekend too, Phil.
I did, yeah. Getting to that point in the season where I watched St. John's a lot in the Catholic Conference, and they had the big unanticipated game with the Catholic Memorial was snowed out on Wednesday. Hey, they made the call, anticipate snow, it didn't happen, whatever, it happens. So that game will be made up. I think it's the day before Valentine's Day, Monday afternoon. But the Eagles came out and they walloped St. John's of Shrewsbury. Highlight of that game was 2 goals on the same, 2 shorthanded goals, I should say, on the same shift from Captain Jimmy Ayers. He had missed a game the previous weekend against BC High, just resting up a minor injury. Came back with a bang. Second goal was a 3-on-5 goal, which you don't see very often, especially in the Catholic Conference. So it just shows you what kind of depth and skill that St. John's has. Jimmy is a senior captain who's a Division I college athlete going to play lacrosse at Johns Hopkins, and the prep is so deep in up front that he's on the second line. He's not even a first line player. I shouldn't say not even. It's really as if the prep has 2 first lines and really 2 third lines. Just a ton of depth there. They flexed their muscles pretty well against Shrewsbury. Trying to think some other highlights from the weekend. Masconomet is they get a big one this week with Marblehead. Marblehead won 2 games within about a 15-hour span over the weekend. I'm sorry, they tied and they won. I take that back. They tied on Saturday night and they beat Medford 4-1 on Sunday morning. They play up at Masconomet or Haverhill on Wednesday at 5:05, I want to say. So if either of those teams have sights set on trying to take down Winthrop, they'll need to beat the other one on Wednesday night. So that's a big game for them. Danvers didn't get a chance to play this past weekend. They were supposed to play Swampscott, but Swampscott came down with a bunch of kids sick. Didn't have enough players to field the team. So that game will be made up. What else? Essex Tep keeps rolling. They're 13-0-1, still undefeated. They're all the way up to number 5 in the power rankings. They just won the other day in overtime, 2-1 game, great game. Defenseman Armani Booth snuck down, top of the circle, scored in overtime, his 8th goal to lead them. They have a big game coming up this Saturday with Shawsheen. The other team in the Commonwealth Conference, really the only team in the Commonwealth Conference you would think that might give them a chance of beating Essex Tech. So, and when this is their final year in the CAC, this will be a swan song, at least for league games. So looking forward to that one Sunday at noon over at Essex Tech.
Matt Williams, how about some girls hockey updates for us?
Well, we've got some shakeups there in Division One. St. Mary's lost to Archbishop Williams, their first loss of the season, so we'll see what happens there. Shrewsbury goes down as well, so that leaves Winthrop as the only undefeated team, I believe, at this stage in Division One. And of course, that segues into Wednesday's game between the Vikings and Peabody over at Peabody. You know, the Vikings haven't beaten Peabody in the first meeting at their barn, and we're going to see what happens. Peabody hasn't lost since. They've won 9 in a row. Winthrop, of course, has won 11 in a row overall, and they're unbeaten in their last 31 regular season games. We leap over the state tournament loss there to show the unbeaten streak there in the regular season. So that's pretty good. I mean, it's not too often you see teams with a combined 40 games unbeaten in the regular season playing against each other. So I expect a pretty tight game that's going to really be really important, not only for the league standings, but for the power rankings. I mean, Peabody at 7 last week, Winthrop at 4. And you presume that with, perhaps some of those losses, Winthrop could move up. I mean, they're for, their opponent rating is negative. So their margin of victory is kind of propping them up here. I don't presume St. Mary's will drop because Archbishop Williams is number 1 in Division 2. So I don't think that's going to hurt their rating too much. Shrewsbury could drop down though. So that's kind of interesting there. So jockeying for position there, and that's going to be the big game everybody's talking about. Peabody tuned up for it with a nice win over Beverly Saturday night. It was really tight, 2-1. Went 0 for 5 on the power play, which you're going against Winthrop. They're usually in the box, so that's not a great way to tune up. So I'm sure they're going to be working on some plays to try to get that power play going ahead of that game. And Beverly in a little bit of a rut right now. They've lost, I think, 4 out of 5 it is, and going against some of the tougher teams, that they got to kind of find their cohesion offensively. I think they're playing really well defensively, but the goals are not coming as easily as they did against some of the inferior teams. And so they got to find a way to score, and they really got to find a way to stay out of the box. I mean, that's the bottom line. When I saw them against Winthrop, they took, I think, 6 penalties or 8 penalties. Against Peabody, they took 5. So you just got to be more disciplined. You're not going to beat teams that are deeper than you. I don't want to say better than you because I don't want to cast aspersions, but certainly teams that are deeper than you, you're going to have a hard time beating them if you're spending so much time in a penalty box. So I think that's been the biggest lesson for Beverly over the last couple of weeks on the girls hockey front.
And I just jump in with I feel that sometimes you can always add into the girls basketball notes, but looking at the time here, I noticed one of the big anticipated games. You talk about the night where the games got postponed due to the snow. One game that did not in girls basketball was the Bishop Fenwick and Peabody girls game, and that was won by Fenwick. So that was a solid win for Fenwick. I want to say it was 50-35, 15-point win. Tight for a while, for sure, but then Peabody scheduled Lincoln Sudbury Sunday, lost a tight one there, but a good opponent for them to be playing, getting ready for postseason for Peabody. And I know not in your coverage areas, but Lynn Classical girls are undefeated as well at this point as we talk. I think 14-0 on the season, which is pretty solid. But I don't know if anyone else has any other girls hoop notes to share. Saugus with a big win earlier this week.
Just jumping off Fenwick, I believe Cecilia Kay is going for her 1,000th career point this week. She's had
probably get a Friday night against Stang, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless she goes off, but I mean, she's only a junior,
right?
And she had a great game the other night against Peabody. Really controlled the paint defensively, got it going at the other end. Offensively was a real force. I mean, that was the difference. Peabody just doesn't have the height to match up with a player like Kay, let alone 2. And Fenwick also has the freshman. I'm forgetting her name. Somebody help me out here. What's the freshman's name for Fenwick? That's about 6'1" and has played a big role for them as well.
I'll get it here.
Like 4 freshmen. I don't know which one's which. Is it the other Cecilia? I mean, they have 3 or 4 freshman starters. I just don't know which ones.
No, I know.
The big ones. I mean, because the Xana Ferratoni's a freshman, and Celia, the other Cecilia Nielsen's a freshman. Those are the 2 that I can think of. That usually
it's Caitlin Boyle.
Kate Boyle, yes, from Beverly. That's right. Thank you. Sorry, Caitlin. She also had a big game. I think she had 12 or 14 points and 4 to 6 rebounds. So she was a nuisance in the paint as well. And I think that's a trait of Bishop Fenwick basketball under Adam, is that they get better as the season goes on and they challenge themselves in these non-league games. Not that they don't play a great schedule within the Catholic Central League, but they want to challenge themselves against the best teams locally and beyond to see how they're going to fare come tournament time. And I think they're on the right path now to having a nice little run. I mean, aren't they ranked like third in the latest Division III pairings, I want to say?
Pretty sure they're number
up in
2.
the top 5.
2, okay. Yeah.
So they'll be right there, certainly.
Yep.
And, good sign for Peabody that, Lincoln Sudbury is probably better than Fenwick and they played them closer, right? So they learned their lesson, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because you do need to get up to speed, right? I mean, I watched some of the game on YouTube and the thing that killed them, I thought, wasn't necessarily the rebounding, but it was the length of Fenwick. They had a lot of sloppy turnovers on bad passes that were disrupted by Fenwick's length, because Fenwick's so tenacious defensively, and I think they're just so used to those long run on the floor passes coming easily against some of their opponents they've had so far that they didn't realize it. Those windows are a lot smaller against a team that defends the way Fenwick does, right? So hopefully that gets them up to the speed of a tougher opponent and is something that they can take as they go forward. As they remember that as they play those tough teams, going down the lane, because I think. Phil mentioned the way that Fenwick plays and the way that they're coached. And I think that's just a sign of a really well-coached team. Those little things, getting in passing lanes, getting those deflections and using your length to alter passes in those little unseen ways. Like I said, I mean, I probably watched, I don't know, a third of the game, while I was doing other things. And that was the thing that stood out most to me.
Yeah. Good stuff. Gentlemen, how about anything else you guys want to share with us? Doesn't have to be hockey or basketball. Anything else looking ahead to this week? What should we be looking for? What should the North Shore sports fan be looking for this week, or what else can you share?
Oh, we got some track.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say track. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, the Beverly boys, we talked about them a little bit. They had their undefeated season, first time since 92. They three-peated 90, 91, 92. I got to look at the banner when I was covering the game, basketball game Friday night. So we got a nice feature story on that team that I would encourage everybody to go out and read. And then this weekend, the league meet over at the Reggie Lewis Center. And then after that, there's a big Grand Prix event at the New Balance track, which everybody loves running at. You talk to any track athlete in the area for any of our schools. I mean, it's a world-class facility, really grippy track that really lends itself to fast times. So the kids love running there. But this weekend, the professionals are going to be running there. Some of the best runners in the whole world in a variety of events, Olympians and world champion quality. And there's a couple of locals will be competing that are on Team New Balance. That's Drew Piazza from Danvers, and of course the Olympian Heather McLean from Peabody will both be running for Team New Balance. It's sort of a home match for them, so to speak. It's awesome that they're on that team, and their company has built this world-class facility, and I believe it's going to be on television as well on NBC Sports, whatever channel that is these days. I think the one the hockey used to be on. I think it's 865 at my house. So if people don't want to buy tickets,
but if people can't go to your house, Matt, there might be some that can't get over there.
Well, if they're loyal Comcast customers, it'll be the same number. I
okay,
believe.
okay, all right.
So, Verizon, I can't help you, but Comcast, I think it's 865.
All right. And I think it's probably easiest if people just go to your place. I don't know.
Yeah, well, if they still get the TV Guide, I don't know if TV Guide's still in business. They can always check that out too.
I don't know about that one. All right. Yeah, I think there's a TV section in the Salem News. They can look for that at some point.
There you go.
There you go.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're probably pretty good here. You guys have a wealth of information here this week.
How about quickly on the championship games yesterday?
Tragic. Both the teams that I wanted lost. So I don't know. The first game, nothing went right for the Niners. That was tough to watch, and obviously the second game, Pat Mahomes. What else can we say? I guess, right?
Refs.
I'm
Yeah.
not a
Not
big
exactly well.
conspiracy theory guy at all. I think a lot of it is nonsense.
It was a
But,
weekend for the
I
refs.
mean, you could make a case that they wanted Mr. Insurance in the big game against Philadelphia.
Yeah,
It wasn't
I
great.
tend to
I
agree.
think it rivaled
I-
Super Bowl 40 as the worst non-NBA, bag job that I've ever seen.
Oh, it was a
I
tough.
don't think it was as bad as Super Bowl 40 in hindsight. The Steelers beating the Seahawks, I think, is still the worst I've seen. But that was close.
Wasn't
Tough
good.
weekend for referees going back to the Celtics Lakers game too. My goodness.
You
I
believe
told
they
you that.
apologized?
I told you that was a travel, and I went back and looked at it again. I thought it was in real time. I'm not saying he didn't get fouled, but that was a travel.
They're never
Like
going to
5
call
steps.
that travel.
Right.
They call it the gather step and then the two. So it's one of those plays that's not going to get called regardless of the
They
time.
can call it the great green grass step. It's still a travel.
I
We
said
took 5
until-
steps.
No, he did not take 5.
Took a few. I mean,
There
as
are
long
guys
as it's
that-
not the Euro step, right?
There are
we don't
people
like
that fail breathalyzers taking fewer steps than that.
That's pretty good. I like that. You should write that down and use that in a story. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, for me, I just think I'm very much not excited about the Kelsey Bowl. I don't really like Philadelphia and Kansas City. I mean, I kind of like Andy Reid, but Travis Kelsey's become so insufferable, and
Yes.
it's kind of this is like the least exciting Super Bowl matchup I can remember since maybe like the Harbaugh Bowl. I don't know. Like I'm really not looking forward to watching the game, which is rare for me.
Actually,
Yeah,
I
we
think
got-
it'll
we
be a
got-
good game. If we're being
got
honest,
two-
I think we got the two best teams. As much as the Bengals kind of got hosed yesterday, I don't know. I think Mahomes has been the best player in the league all season, and the Eagles are good on both lines. They could give the Chiefs some trouble. If Mahomes moves like he did yesterday, I feel like the Eagles are going to be in his face all day.
I think the Eagles will
We're-
win, which unfortunately is insufferable because those fans are brutal.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
out of time for sure, guys.